The rehearsal dinner was supposed to be the easy part. No pressure, no vows, just family, good food, and a chance for everyone to relax before the wedding the next day. The restaurant Daniel had chosen was one of those places that tried very hard to feel cozy. Soft lighting, brick walls, candles flickering on every table. The kind of place where people spoke a little quieter without realizing it. I sat near the end of the long table, nursing a glass of iced tea and watching the room the way old men do. My grandson, Ethan, sat beside me. He was 8 years old, thin as a stick, with dark hair that never stayed combed for more than 5 minutes. Every now and then he swung his legs under the table like he had extra energy he didn't know what to do with. Across from us, Daniel, my son, laughed with a group of friends from work. His fiancée, Melissa, sat beside him, smiling politely while her mother talked about flower arrangements. Everyone looked happy, but Ethan didn't. I noticed it when the waiter brought out the appetizers. Instead of grabbing a breadstick like he usually would, Ethan just stared at the tablecloth. His small fingers kept picking at a loose thread. "Hey," I said quietly, "you okay, buddy?" He nodded. "Too quickly." That's something you learn after raising kids and grandkids. When they answer too fast, it usually means the opposite. A few minutes later, while everyone else was busy talking, Ethan slid his hand across the table and grabbed mine. His fingers were cold. He squeezed my hand and leaned closer, his voice barely louder than the clink of silverware. "Grandpa," he whispered, "something's wrong." I turned slightly toward him. "What do you mean?" He glanced around the table first, the way someone might check if they're being watched. Then he whispered again. "I heard them." "Heard who?" He swallowed. "Melissa and her mom." My chest tightened just a little. Kids hear things they aren't meant to hear all the time, especially at events like this. I assumed it was probably a misunderstanding. "What did they say?" I asked gently. Ethan hesitated. "They said tomorrow we'll fix everything." "That doesn't sound bad," I said carefully. But Ethan shook his head. "That's not all." He leaned even closer now, his forehead almost touching my arm. "Melissa said once the wedding is done, Dad won't be able to back out." For a moment, I didn't respond. The room around us kept moving, people laughing, glasses clinking, someone telling a loud story near the bar. But my attention stayed on Ethan. "Did they say anything else?" I asked. He nodded slowly. "Her mom asked if Dad had signed the papers yet." "Papers?" Ethan shrugged. "I think so." I leaned back in my chair. Kids can mishear things, I reminded myself. Still, the knot in my stomach didn't go away. "Where did you hear this?" I asked. "Outside the hallway near the bathrooms," Ethan said. "They didn't see me." I patted his hand. "You did the right thing telling me." He looked relieved for half a second. Then worried again. "Is Dad in trouble?" I forced a small smile. "Probably not, but I'll check, okay?" He nodded. Across the table, Daniel raised his glass and began tapping it with a spoon. "Okay, okay," he said, grinning. "Before everyone finishes the wine, I should probably say something." People quieted down. Melissa slipped her hand into his. "I just want to thank everyone for coming," Daniel continued. "Tomorrow is going to be one of the biggest days of my life." Everyone cheered softly. But I found myself watching Melissa instead of Daniel. Her smile looked perfect. Almost too perfect. After dinner, people drifted outside onto the patio, while the staff cleared the tables. The night air was cool, carrying the faint smell of rain. I spotted Melissa standing near the railing with her mother, both of them speaking quietly. Daniel had stepped away to talk to his best man. I walked over. As I approached, Melissa's mother stopped talking mid-sentence. They both turned toward me. "George," Melissa said brightly, "did you enjoy dinner?" "Very much," I replied. Her mother gave a polite nod. "Beautiful evening," she said. I leaned my elbows on the railing beside them. "It is," I agreed. For a few seconds, none of us spoke. Then I said casually, "Weddings always come with paperwork, don't they?" Melissa's mother blinked. "Paperwork? Prenups, property agreements, things like that," I said lightly. "I remember when my wife and I got married, though back then it was much simpler." Melissa laughed, but it sounded a little forced. "Oh, Daniel and I aren't worrying about any of that." Her mother added quickly, "Young people today trust each other." I nodded. Of course. But something in the way they looked at each other, just for a second, made my suspicion grow. Then Daniel walked over. "There you are, Dad," he said. "We're thinking of heading out soon, big day tomorrow." I smiled at him. Of course. But the knot in my stomach stayed there. Later that night, after everyone said goodbye, Daniel drove Ethan home. I rode with them. The car was quiet for most of the ride. Finally I said, "Son, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Have you signed any legal documents with Melissa recently?" Daniel glanced at me, confused. "Yeah, some financial stuff her family suggested." "What kind of stuff?" "Just combining certain assets after the wedding," he said. "Why?" I looked out the window. Streetlights passed in long streaks of yellow. "Did a lawyer review it for you?" He hesitated. "Not really. Her mom's attorney handled it." I sighed softly. "Daniel, I think you should have someone independent look at those papers." He frowned. "You think something's wrong?" From the back seat, Ethan sat very still. I chose my words carefully. "I think when it comes to marriage and money, it's always better to be certain." Daniel didn't answer right away, but I could see the worry starting to form in his expression. When we reached his house, Ethan hugged me tightly before running inside. Daniel stayed by the car. "You really think I should check those documents?" he asked. "Yes," I said. He rubbed the back of his neck. "All right, I'll call a lawyer first thing in the morning." The wedding wasn't until 4 in the afternoon. There was time. The next morning, my phone rang at 10:30. It was Daniel. His voice sounded different. Tight. "Dad, you were right." My stomach dropped. "What happened?" "The documents Melissa had me sign, they transfer partial ownership of my house and investment accounts to a joint trust." "That's not normal before a wedding," I said quietly. "No," Daniel replied. "According to the lawyer, it would make it extremely difficult for me to recover those assets if something went wrong." Silence filled the line. Finally he said, "I'm confronting them before the ceremony." "Do you want me there?" "Yes." 2 hours later, we sat in the living room with Melissa and her mother. Daniel placed the documents on the table. "Why didn't you explain these?" he asked. Melissa's face went pale. Her mother tried to smile. "It's just financial security for the marriage." "For who?" Daniel said sharply. Neither of them answered. And in that moment, the entire future Daniel thought he was stepping into suddenly looked very different. Later that evening, the wedding guests received a short message. The ceremony had been postponed. No details were given. But as I sat on my porch that night, Ethan climbed into the chair beside me. "Is Dad okay?" he asked. I nodded. "He will be." Ethan leaned against my arm. "I'm glad I told you." I squeezed his shoulder gently. "Me too, kid." Sometimes the smallest voices are the ones that save us.